What's going on, friends? Welcome back to another 6oneindie Showcase conversation. Mike here, along with Becca on the 6oneindie side of things. Hello, Becca.
Hello.
Today, we're here with one of my new favorite people on the planet, making one of my most anticipated games of 2024. Anton. Hello. Anton.
Hi.
You're making a video game called Sulfur, and I'm very excited about it.
Nice. Yeah, I'm excited too. I'm a bit too excited to sleep at night, but we still have a lot to do. Yeah, but it's getting there.
Admiring the hat. The hat is wicked cool.
Oh, the hat is cool.
Yeah. We made this. Like, I'm really into merch. I made one of these.
Us too.
Like, I got these like boxes to get these on the show to GDC that we're visiting in 2 weeks.
Oh, hell yeah.
So if anybody of you or somebody you know are going to be there, I can get you one of these. So if when you travel, you don't ruin your hats, right?
That is so smart.
That's amazing.
Yeah, being part of Team Bald, I travel a lot with hats. I usually just shove in my bags, but man.
Yeah, I rock that too, or I'm working on it, with my hair not being there as much. But I think it's an American brand, FlexFit.
Oh, yeah, FlexFit, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. I'm going to look into that. It's funny, like
branded.
For all these showcase interviews so far, there's at least been, I think you must be the third or fourth person to tell me like a product thing. I'm like, oh, I gotta remember that just for like general life.
Yeah. I ordered them, and the company I ordered them from, she was like, "That's so cool! I didn't know we had that product." It's like they have such a big catalog of stuff, and she's just like one of the people working there, and she was like, "That's so cool! Can you send me a picture when you have it?" Like, because she just makes orders, right? So
it's kind of like us, also like on whenever we do I do merch stuff for 6oneindie, I'm just like going through the catalog of like, oh, what's possible, and like. Last year ahead of PAX, learned that we can make denim jackets. So I made like a death metal version of our logo, and it's super cool.
Nice. I have one in the workings. I got like there's like the European like Amazon for clothes, like German Zalando. So I got like jackets in different sizes that were on sale, like leather jackets, and I got these tags. I'm gonna put like that, but not Wrangler, but better,
Speaking of better than Wrangler, you're making a video game called Sulfur, which is definitely better than Wrangler. Tell me a bit about yourself and about Sulfur and like your game dev journey so far leading up to Sulfur.
I mean, so my game dev journey is not very it's quite peculiar, I would say. I started as an analyst, which is not a common job for like a 20-year-old. But I read all the game magazines growing up, and apparently not everybody did that. So my first job was to interview game developers for a trade association like the ESA, but in Sweden.
Oh, cool.
So the Swedish games industry is the place, like the trade association, trade body. I was basically a lobbyist, but it's like Sweden, so it's cute and small, and it's games industry, so everybody's like, oh yeah, games industry, fun. Fun lobbyism. So I did that, and I worked at Mojang for a year with like customer support straight out of university, and then I ended up back at the earlier job, and I was there for a full decade, working as a like project manager for supporting the industry as a whole. So I did business advice stuff and events and a lot of different stuff through the years. And then I ended up meeting a lot of indies, and I got to know these guys that I've started a company with 2 years ago, and we're making this game called Sulfur. So I'm the CEO / designer / business director / marketer / whatever. We're poor people, so you do different things.
True indie, many hats.
I do the community stuff. I do this, like I do the front facing things about the game. And the rest of the team are 3 other people. The guy drawing all the art, I would say he's the art director, of course, but he's also like creative director. Lots of cool ideas. And we have a level designer / animator doing the clickety gun stuff. And we have a programmer who tries to solve all the stupid ideas we try to make them work eventually. So that's our team.
Awesome. Yes, this is Perfect Random's first official game.
Yeah, that's right. We've all been in the industry for a long time. I think they've made like maybe 5 games before in different constellations and different companies. What the Golf, What the Car, Quell
Oh, okay.
4D, Hector.
Amazing.
Yeah, big and small, like indie and bigger titles, and a lot of game jams through the years.
So how did Sulfur come to be the first project? Like, was this your brainchild?
It was
Or
not my
I was gonna say,
brainchild.
did you have a dream about being a priest and shooting little goblins?
Right. I think it's so. So our Simon, the guy drawing all the art, he's also he's also very fond of, like, of course, old cartoons, like the earlier Adult Swim stuff, Super Jail, that kind of that kind of stuff, if people know. Um, and they've been making, like, practically kids games, like these mobile games, like What the Car, and like fun little things like jokey. But he was like, I want to make a violent game. And so at game jams they were trying out different stuff, and then they got this idea of, like, so he does the enemies are sprites, right? They're flat.
Yeah.
So they were like, what if you, like, peel off, like, the skin, and there's, like, layered with, like, skin and then, like, meat and then bones, and, like, and you destroy them, and like a death tech kind of. That was the whole idea for the game. Enemies should die cool, like. And when we started the company, like, the first design meeting we had was, like, on the whiteboard was enemies should die cool. And there was a ton of different ideas of setting and what should be happening. And that priest idea is pretty much stolen from Preacher, I think, like the graphic novel. Yeah, it's kind of that setting. We think that's
great
cool.
Inspiration. Yeah.
And we like guns and wanted to make an FPS because we like FPS, we like the guns. So this kind of came together in a natural kind of thing, like themes we wanted, gameplay we wanted, art we wanted, and, like, we like this general theme of, like, it's like cutesy, dark, cartoony, but kind of violent and kind of grim. Like, the theme and the story of the game is quite tragic. It's not very uplifting. And so we go for this kind of unique combo of everything we love.
Yeah, something I do want to commend you on, and you and the team on, especially now learning some of the backgrounds and some of your history. The shooting feels fantastic. Like, it looks like it feels as good as it looks on screen. Like, especially, like, I've been following Sulfur for whenever you guys initially revealed it. I feel like at least a couple years ago now, whatever, like that first showcase you guys had. And it was always like, that looks so killer, but is it gonna hit when it's like you have the controller in your hands and playing this demo? God damn, this game hits. It is so goddamn fluid and just satisfying to shoot down these little goblins and, like you said, have them die cool.
And it's also so important for it to feel smooth in a game like this. And so the fact that it does, and it does right from the get-go, is really incredible.
Yeah, like making games like it with our little team is like blessing and a curse. We're, like, opinionated as fuck, like, about everything, and everybody is, like, especially, like, in terms of stuff like that, the core gameplay. And that's what we started with, like, the first few weeks together, like, iterating on how should it feel moving and jumping, shooting. And we all have different references. Like, I grew up with console games. I like Mega Man, Dark Souls, Zelda, and, like, that type of, like, not arcadey, but, very kind of close, like, to
snappy.
Yeah, like, I like a snappy, like, quick controller. And then we have, like, my colleagues who play Tarkov and, like, Counter-Strike, and, like, these more heavy first-person shooter controllers that have more weight to them. And there's so much good stuff in all of these different games, but you have at some point to nail down what is unique and what's important for this game. So that took us maybe a couple of months, figure out, like, the first few enemies, first few guns, how they should feel. And being that happened to be a blessing, and it could be a curse in long term if you keep just doing that forever. You have to actually make the game, but it turned out pretty cool, I think.
Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah, like, we both played the demo, and I know, like, Becca and I, just behind the scenes, just, like, keep telling each other, like, this is, like, really fucking good, isn't it? Like, yeah, it's really good. Like, it does, like, I don't play too many FPSs nowadays, but, like, once in a while I will get in the mood to, like, do a couple runs of Destiny or whatever it may be. And, like, it generally feels like comparable to how, like, the gunplay in a Halo or Destiny or a COD does feel. Like, it, that equates to, like, the actual feel, and even, like, just some of the sound design stuff. Like, it does feel, like, very peppery, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, we started with just stealing all the sounds, like placeholder,
as you should, yeah.
taking stuff we love and like putting it together and like, oh, it's great now, and then we actually had to replace all the sounds eventually and like
Yeah.
make it be our game, so it's not all stolen, you know.
We all know that the roguelike genre has kind of gone crazy. There's hundreds of different roguelikes, all of different elements. But what do you and your team feel like are the main touchstones behind a really good roguelike game?
And that's another, like, we don't think the same about that, but we kind of have to come to a conclusion of how we want to make that. So like my favorite roguelikes are like Returnal, and some of the more modern ones. We also have older influences. There's like Finnish roguelike for like 2000s or something, maybe
Sure.
99, called Ivan. It's like short IVAN, like with dots in between. That's our creative director's like favorite game of all time, and it's a bit like playing, I don't know, Dwarf Fortress or something. Like it's like not very appealing to most people, but there's things there that are like perfect for what it does, like in systems and randomness, and just keeping you there, making it different every time. So we want to capture like this modern take of a roguelike that I love, which is like you don't waste a player's time. Like every run should matter. Like even if you didn't unlock anything new, you still like keep part of your progress somehow. So that's something we think is important and we iterate on, which I was like super loud about early in the project. I was like, that has to be a thing. Like people are going to be hating on roguelikes who don't do this because all the modern ones do. And it doesn't, ruin the game. It's just make it slightly more friendly. If you're bad and you're grinding, you're still getting somewhere, right? Like in Returnal, you unlock spells like abilities for your guns. And I was playing that for like 3 days straight. Just finished it in a weekend. I think it's finished in like 17 hours or something, just straight. Jesus. Like for a few days. And then I looked online. It's like average like playtime 22 hours. I was like, yeah, I'm so good. It's like beat them by 5 hours. Yeah, speed run. So I'm not a big shooter guy. Originally, I play all of like single player games like Half-Life and Metroid Prime, all that stuff. But I don't play Counter-Strike that much. For me, that like the single player thing is way bigger of an experience and like getting good at something isolated. It's just like my favorite thing. So
yeah, it's kind of like something I appreciate about roguelikes similar to Sulfur. It's kind of comes down to respecting the player's time, because if I am doing just a hard reset on a run where like nothing carries over or anything like that, and like you said, pretty rare nowadays, but there are still like some outliers that do stick with like the hard reset. Yeah, you get kind of over it pretty quickly and you get pretty discouraged. But at least like even the couple runs I did with Sulfur, I already felt that progress, whether it was like some cash like carrying over and I was able to like hit up the upgrades and whatnot. Like even little things like that just help immensely. So I do appreciate that you fought for that as well very much.
I think it's really important. Not everybody does. Not even all my colleagues do. But it's definitely a matter of opinion and a matter of like what's the essence, what's the soul of this game? Does it care about you or not at all? Yeah. It's like I still like the very unfriendly like nature of like Dark Souls and games like that. That just like this world doesn't care about you. Like you're here, you happen to be here. It's up to you to make the best decisions, and you can lose everything if you're being stupid, and that's fine to me.
I mean, speaking of like, you can lose everything. Tell me about like some of the risk and reward that like goes into like each run, like choosing what to bring with you, what to leave behind.
Yeah, so that's like the more stuff you bring with you, it should probably like bring value to your run. Like if you bring stuff with you that you just end up circling back to the hub world with, you probably shouldn't brought that. That was just a stupid risk. But it's hard, right? Like if you're playing well, you didn't need that porridge or that French hot dog you're carrying with you in your bag. But you never know, right? You might end up like blowing yourself up or something and you need to eat. So it's always hard, right, to know what to bring. But we try to make that learning by doing experience. Like people are eventually going to be figuring out like you should probably extract more than you think. First time you play, you're probably reluctant to use there's an amulet in the game that's like a homeward bone or like a teleport scroll in Diablo that will take you back to the hub world.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, at least for me, like it's an ego thing. Like it's really hard to like make yourself do that. Like just like take a break from your run and start
Yeah.
over, to leave stuff just to be safe. That's kind of boring, you know. Like when you're in front of a boss and like Returnal or Dark Souls or a similar game, like you could return home, or you could keep going and keep risking it. And that's kind of the thing we're going for, like a push and pull.
Yeah. It definitely, you are achieving that so far. Again, even just playing like briefly in the demo so far. And I think a thing that an element that complements that, especially like not knowing what's coming next, is the procedural nature of each run in all the rooms. Can you tell us how that works, and like, you know, how often, if ever, like will a player see like some of the similar layouts, or is it always going to be a surprise?
Yeah, so we always wanted to have that kind of fresh. There should always be a fresh run. But we started designing the game linearly, so it's like a combo. But we always wanted to make it procedural. So like every level you enter, every room you go into is like handcrafted by our level designer Felix. So he makes the levels like chunk by chunk. They have connectors. They have event spawners. There's a value to like what can spawn there and how many enemies and enemy types there can be there. So a harder enemy is rarer, and if there's a hard enemy spawning, there will be fewer enemies, for example. There's like intervals for that, added randomness, and random loot, and then like different events of like random stuff that can happen there. Like, of course, treasure chests, explosive barrels, stuff like that. Harder enemies, mutated enemies. So these are puzzled together. These different rooms are puzzled together into a network. And that's how the entire game is built and structured and designed.
Is it challenging? You know, you mentioned that it is a little bit of like the rooms are handcrafted, but obviously like the nature of like, for lack of a better term, the roll of the die, let's say, that's kind of the procedural part. Is it a challenge kind of like blending handcrafted with procedural, or do you find it refreshing? Or
I mean, I think it's quite refreshing. We do it kind of in the in between. It's not completely procedural. If you do that, I think it like you immediately be kind of boring and samey and like hard to differentiate. Like when there's a human touch to it, or like there's an how a room should be kind of feeling to a room, it's usually better. So that's how most game developers do it these days. There are all these like old school cave networks that people still do sometimes, but they just end up looking, I don't know, not very interesting to me, at least. So I would say there's always limitations, of course. Like the way we do it, handcrafted, that will take time, obviously. But then you also like it has to be puzzled together, and that takes computational effort. So when you're loading a level, you have to be smarter about how does that actually happen and stuff like that. So there's hurdles to doing it this way, for sure. But we think it's worth it because I still like playing the game, even though I have like 300 hours in this game. And it's still like it feels kind of nice to walk through it because I don't know what's gonna be through around the corner. And that really, it's just like it's a modern, nice way to make a game. There's a reason why a lot of people make procedural games these days.
Yeah, it helps to keep it fresh.
Yeah.
Despite the 3 hours into it.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, definitely one of the most, eye-catching and striking aspects of Sulfur is its art style. And I know that you mentioned, kind of combining that like violence with the cutesy elements. So what led you guys to this like kind of cutesy art style?
Right. So I think it's just like how Simon does art a bit. Not all of his artists are like cutesy, but they're definitely like flat shaded like that. And has that kind of they're made in his favorite tool is Illustrator. So it gets a certain kind of like you're actually not drawing, you're like pulling lines right around to make it. And a lot of people do that in comics as well, and like in cartoons. So it gets a certain vibe, and then he just has a distinct way of making characters. And these goblins ended up becoming this like very iconic, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So that's kind of way we have them front facing in the game. But that's just the first area of the game are the goblins, and then there's like a town area. There's sewers. There's lower castle, upper castle. There's a forest. There's a desert, stuff like that. So there's so many more creatures in the game. It's just like we just know from experience that we started a new company. Nobody know who we are. We started a brand. Nobody knows. People can't even read the logo. Like you have to have something distinct, and it ended up becoming kind of the goblins for this game. So, but I really like his art, and I've seen it develop through the years as well. And I think we're like in a nice place with character design, definitely.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, I think the
everything
design.
looks
Oh, go
incredible.
ahead, Becca.
Sorry, just
Yep.
everything looks really, really great. You know, that's the first thing that sticks out, especially when you jump onto the Steam page, is just the key art is already eye catching itself, and then just seeing the gameplay and seeing all the different characters, even that first person perspective with the guns and everything like that. It's just it just seems really, really unique and well thought through. And Simon seems to he knows what he's doing.
Simon
Yeah,
knows. Yeah, I think even paired with like. And I don't know if this is purposeful with Simon, but like it seems like Simon's working with like a purposefully limited color palette, which like really helps to stand out as well. At least from what I played in the demo and from what I've seen. And I love the animation work. I like little guys just bouncing around. I think it's so cool.
Yeah, and it also has rules to it. Like there's like limitations to frames, and like that's consistent through the game. And whenever I ask for us to like break away from that, I guess like no, like there's like you're causing yourself so much trouble by doing that. And I think he's usually right about that, like keeping it consistent and having it like get the same kind of vibe throughout the game.
You started teasing some additional areas outside of like what we know with the goblins and whatnot. I do want to touch on the narrative and how Sulfur handles its narrative. Like it does so far from what we play. It does a great job keeping the player guessing, wondering what's going on and what is like the true purpose of the amulet. And you know, even Kyle mentioned like who is our player character? Why is this priest like gunning everybody around? Is it tough to balance like a structured narrative that you're trying to tell with the roguelike nature, where it is like kind of run after run, especially like with some of the procedural stuff?
Yes, yeah, it's hard, and it's hard on a like limited budget and stuff. We ended up writing a lot more dialogue than we anticipated and had planned for actually. But we made a dialogue system that goes pretty far and like deep, and we make like stupid jokes about like I don't know European cuisine and like curse words, and like there's character like every NPC you interact with has a distinct kind of personality to them, and usually a bit of problems from their past and current problems as well.
Don't we all?
That you will kind of uncover if you talk to them. But we figured out to playtesting, like most people don't like to read. And like with the resources we have of a small indie company for people, we can't really do like voice dialogue or anything like that. So it's like, that's kind of a extra seasoning for some type of players, but we still need to design the game to not be about that. It's like I'm advocating for like, you know, the Zelda style of like, if this is important, takes you to a store, there should be a little symbol next to this, you know, dialogue like option, and there should be a little exit thing to exiting. Like we're working to get those things in there for like people, even if you literally can't read, you should be able to kind of get through the game like we did as kids. Like I didn't speak English when I was 6 years old growing up in Sweden, but I played like King's Quest, which doesn't make sense at all. But you know, there's so many games like that you try to push through as a player, and we just want to make it as good as we can for most players.
Yeah, my favorite related side story to that. Back in the day, I grabbed myself a Japanese copy of Pokemon Silver before it came to America, and cool. Once you get to the point of you go to the forest and you have to turn back around to go back to the professor and deliver the egg, I had no idea what I was doing because like 7-year-old Mike didn't know how to read Japanese clearly. A funny story with Sulfur. I don't know how, but I accidentally booted the game. I think in Swedish, and like I was just hitting dialogue options, like, hey, which one am I supposed to hit? And then I eventually got there, and then I backed out. I was like, oh no, here's English. Cool.
How did you start in Swedish?
Anton, I just do things, and
because I think you have to go to the options and pick Swedish.
Definitely, because I exited the game and then it was in English.
No,
that happened to me during Next Fest with one of my demos. It launched in like the origin language, and I had to change it. I don't know how that happens.
Right, Swedes don't do that. Like putting Swedish in the game is like a joke. Like people, because there's 10 million people. Like it's like localizing the game to Michigan. Like it doesn't make sense, right? So why we translated to Swedish was just for technical, like technically checking that it's translated. Like that's why we did it, and then it ended up being really funny to us because everything sounds like it's from the 80s. Because we haven't read or experienced like translated media since we were kids. So the last time I read and like read out loud like a dialogue from a video game is like, I don't know, it's like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles time. It's like VHS days. So it's like everything we read and write in Swedish becomes the like old. It sounds like really old Swedish, which is adorable. I don't know if this happens to other Europeans or like people who experience this. Please tell me.
Yeah, I think I was just like messing around with the controller or something. I like wasn't looking at my screen and I just saw not English words. I was like, okay, this top option I think is new game. And, yeah,
right. We do have like the umlaut O's in the game.
Oh yeah,
I noticed. We think that's funny. We just think it's like a gag for us. Like pulse, it's a hot dog. Not even in Sweden. It's in Denmark, like our neighbor country.
Yeah,
we think it sounds stupid, so that ends up in the game. And there's like so many in jokes that we just hope, dear God, that people still want to play this game, even though it's so much stupid.
Anton, that's why our mascot is a goddamn pigeon, just because we think it's funny.
Yeah, right. That's what happens.
So, just touching a little bit more on the narrative elements of things, I am
How dare
wondering.
You get us back on track?
I'm sorry. I'm wondering if you have a favorite character in the game so far. If it's someone that you can talk about, we've only met a few in the demo so far, so.
I definitely got a bunch of favorite. I think one of my favorite is the Goblin Baby.
Yes.
So that was added to the game because my dear friend and colleague Simon had a baby when we started making the game, and he was like, he came back to work and he celebrated and added a baby to the game. That's just like one of my favorite enemies. It sounds so cute, and it's like pretty dangerous if you're not expecting it to
I don't know if we
get thrown at you.
Concerned about Simon, since you have to kill those babies.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. He's totally fine. It's totally fine. He's a good guy. And then
we think
I like Stiffleg too, because he has like this past that he doesn't want to go much into, but he lost an arm, he lost a leg, and he just like that dialogue to me is very, very fun. It was really nice reading it in Swedish for some reason. It's not like all the original script is in English. Sure. And then whenever we translate that to our own language, it kind of becomes this new thing that like feels different. And that's just a great character to me, in my opinion. Yeah.
I will say in spirit, Kyle also said, our other sixoneindie member, for him, it was a tie between the gravedigger that you awake to see after your first death and the shopkeeper in the dungeon that looks like they should live in an emergency room with how many injuries and ailments they were dealing with.
Right. Yeah. It's probably him. Yeah.
Well, Anton, a common question and a common theme that's been kind of out throughout all these interviews and conversations was kind of like just the indie scene and indie spirit as a whole. So I would love to ask you, and there's no wrong answer, what does indie mean to you? Whether it is like you could give the direct definition or whatever your interpretation of the definition, or just like in your heart, what do you feel? What indie means to you?
Yeah. I mean, there's ways you can measure or talk about that, but like there's the creative independence of like actually having to decide what you want to do, which like most people aren't completely. If we're being honest, like we work in its commercial space, we have to
Yeah.
think about like if you're fully indie, you're probably a starving artist, right? Like most people are, unless like exceptionally cool, naturally cool. But most people like still have to be like, yeah. Well, people do people want this, or am I just like doing this for myself? And so you have to think about that in this industry, which I think is fine. Like we can still, I can come up with 30 new ideas that I think are cool, I'm excited about, but also they're commercial, right? So you have to have that kind of sense. And then there's of course like, are you independent like financially? Like we're not. Like we have a limited time, a limited budget. We have an investor who believes in us, Landfall Games, who also make really cool like physics based like FPS and stuff. A lot of big inspiration to me personally. And like they invested in the company, we can make this first game, but we still have a time limit. Like we can be indie as much as we want, but we still have limits. Like there's limit to what we can do, but we're very independent. Like they don't, our investor don't like fibble with details or ask questions about what we're doing on a day-to-day or even a monthly, maybe yearly basis. Maybe yearly basis. They want to know like how it's going. We're very independent like that, and we do the game we want to do, and like we market the game the way we want to do. We don't have a publisher. We're gonna self-publish most likely, unless something like the sky opens up and the gods want to publish our game. We might be like, maybe consider it. Can you make it? Can you market it better than we do? Okay, maybe. We're a bit cocky about doing it on our own since we've been in the industry for a long time. We feel we can do this. And nobody are gonna care as much about our game as we do. Just nature of it. Like there's no hard feelings. All the publishers out there can talk about shit. Publishers you want, but it's just like the nature of it, right? They have
it's your baby.
Like and they have 100 things to attend, and they will attend to. We will be like a 1% of the things they have to think about on a daily basis, and this is what I think about on my daily basis. So of course, it's gonna matter more to me. So like doing all the stuff on our own, we think is gonna translate better. Like the value we put in, the time, money, than anybody else can do, and that's just like not a fact of like we're better than anyone else or we're more, we know better how to market a game. Of course not, but like I think we care more and are gonna fight harder than most publishers would do for us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a great answer.
Thank you.
Well, Anton, thank you so much for hanging out with us today. Just so
thank you.
To avoid you becoming a starving artist and so people could feed you, where can people follow you and follow Sulfur's journey?
Oh yeah, you can wishlist on Steam. You can download the demo on Steam. Should be out by this interview.
The demo is out now.
Today,
March
out 20th. Now. Sweet. And you can follow us on Twitter. It's also X at Perfect Random. You search for Perfect Random or Sulfur. You can follow us on TikTok. I do a lot of TikTok videos there because I think the platform is exciting and fun. And what more? Reddit is a place. We are there too. And we have a Discord as well. If you go to ourdiscord.com, you'll be redirected because I bought that domain, or sulfurdiscord.com. I don't know how we got those.
OUR Discord?
Yeah, our Discord. Yeah,
incredible.
Our Discord. I don't know. Somebody didn't pay their fee, and I was just on there that day, and I was like, just this. Well, it cost me I think $1.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Amazing.
But I was darn. I shouldn't have said that. I should be like, yeah, we paid so much for that. We care so much, right? Anyway,
have to stay on top of that renewal.
Anyway, yeah, we have a Discord where we play test a lot and like share moments about the game, and anybody can join there and just hang out.
Awesome. Dude, thank you so much for hanging out. Definitely a pleasure getting to know you a bit and chatting. Like genuinely, Sulfur's been on my radar for years now. So like even when the submission first rolled in, I was like, oh fuck yeah, all right, let's go. I was like genuinely so stoked. I remember I remember Kelsey, another partner, and my wife, answering your email on Christmas Eve. I was like, no, you could tell them we're in. No, we're definitely still in the process. Don't worry. Because I was just like super stoked to see you guys come through and have you guys be a part of it. So I appreciate you trusting us with showing off a glimpse of Sulfur.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us. And yeah, really appreciate it. It was fun. Fun talking to you.
You too. Everyone listening, you could go to sixoneindie.com/showcase. You could click the sick ass Sulfur key art, and all the links that Anton just mentioned are there as well. So yeah, please go wishlist, support, all that good stuff. We have a whole bunch of other interviews over on the site as well. So keep on learning more about these devs because they're all delightful so far, like Anton. Thanks so much for listening. We'll catch you later.
Thank you, guys. All right. Cheers.
Cheers.